going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ron Pure Sports NBA Hardwood Show. I am your host, Mangone. I am here with Hoop. I am here with DC. But we got to go to DC because, I didn't even know who this guy was. He looks all bronze out there. Look at him. He's looking like a Greek god out there. He's probably running at the beach, getting all chiseled. And he told us a story. He lost his phone as well. So DC has had an interesting week, but he's back in the NBA streets and he's ready to grind. We got not the normal 4-gamer DC. We got a nice big slate for you. So how are you doing? Are you ready to dive into these NBA streets?
I am. Yeah, I had a little taste yesterday coming back to a pretty, casual 5-gamer, not a whole ton of news, but different story today. Obviously, 2 big trades going down. We've got injuries all over the place, 10 games on the slate. So, yeah, a long day of research getting ready. The NBA is a weird one where, we all know there's injuries that go through teams, COVID stuff, and some teams like Indiana, right? I've never heard of some of these guys that are putting up 40-point games for the Pacers. Obviously, that's pretty relevant tonight, especially. But that's not like a normal sport, right? Like baseball or football, you're not going to get superstar performances coming from guys you've never heard of. So that was interesting to see kind of who emerged over that week where I was way off the grid, right? I was kind of planning to be anyway. And then I lost my phone 2 minutes before boarding the flight to Mexico. So I'm just like, all right, I guess that's it. I'm not going to pay attention to the NBA at all. I didn't watch a single minute. You can't play DFS anyway. So I just kind of unplugged to recharge the batteries, but happy to be back and happy to be talking some hoops with you guys.
Yeah, should be a good time. I don't remember if the show, I got some title bucks on either the Monday show, maybe it was the Tuesday show. I got lucky. Was Terry season last week on the Tuesday show, Hoop?
Yeah, it was last week on would it be the Monday show or what? Title's on Tuesday. Yeah. Yep. So I was on your side though. That seemed pretty clear.
I'm saying there's a chance you earned me some money staying away. And Title even said DC. He said I finally made a bet that didn't work out, which you have been waiting for that to happen. So you did miss that. That happened last week. But let's go over to Hoop, where Hoop, we obviously have had a lot going on. There's NBA trades going on as well. We can talk about that a little bit. I'm sure that people want to hear our takes on that. Hoop, what do you think of the Halliburton deal? And CJ McCollum is now a Pelican. So what are you doing here? What do you think with all these deals that we have just going on?
Well, I mean, to me, the Kings are just probably if you just look at the NBA and say, who do you think is the just dumbest organization, you'd say the Kings, and imagine, the trade deadline comes and they make the dumbest trade of all time. Halliburton is a stud. If you watch the games, you can see he's the guy you hold on to. De'Aaron Fox is a guy that you ship. Oh, of course, true Kings fashion, they keep Fox and ship Halliburton. Great trade for the Pacers. I mean, obviously a down year for the Pacers, but Brogdon, Halliburton, they got a good building block there. So great move on their part. And then the Pelicans thing, I just don't get. Remember last year, what was it, the Norman Powell for Gary Trent thing? And I said they're the same players. Neither team gets better in this Pelicans thing. CJ McCollum isn't a game changer by any means. Is there much of a difference between CJ McCollum and Josh Hart? I'd say no. So I guess, for me, I don't see that as a big move at all. McCollum, Hart seems like a wash in my opinion.
You didn't pull the title and break out break out everything and just say, hey, trade alert. I thought it was a big deal though. I thought it was big to see what happens with Zion and everything, because I think they're trying to make a push to keep Zion happy, but we'll have to see. And before we get your take on it, DC, we got Spencer S in the chat, and these guys, Spencer, you're in the chat a lot. This is a bad comment.
So I guess
good call on Hayward. I mean, dude, he got hurt. What are you going to do? So if guys get hurt, we're happy to take some critics for, okay, if DC touted a pitcher and he gets shelled, you'll take the L, but don't be giving L's out for injuries. Am I not right, Hoop? I mean, come on.
He was the most popular player on the slate, right? Hayward, or at least one of them. He was way up there. So what are you going to do? But what are you talking about? The Pelicans, man, keeping Zion happy. Doesn't Zion have to play some games before?
You're not wrong.
I mean, come on now. It's a little too far.
I'm with you. We're definitely giving him a little too much treatment there. I think Hoop's having some technical difficulties. I see the AirPods are off. He's shaking his head.
It's a fucking disaster. These AirPods, I swear. I come on here and bitch about them every time we do a show, and they just continue to let me down. Now you are going to see a show at one point where I come with the hammer and just smash these fucking things. The Zion thing, though, I mean, dude, like, is he coming back at all this season or no?
There's no chance we see him. Yeah. I don't think the Pelicans aren't really in the race. I don't think unless they start pushing, then maybe Zion tries to. But I assume he just literally decides not to play. And Chad's saying Beal's having season-ending surgery. So man, that's
yeah, sure is.
I assume the Wizards start to sell a little bit more, but like no one's now going to get Bradley Beal in a trade, which there were talks of him being in a trade, which that's obviously out the door now. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that all shakes out.
I mean, two big trades today, right? These weren't like smaller trades by any means. We'll see a bunch of those too ahead of Thursday's trade deadline, but just kind of a bigger picture, today, tomorrow, and then Thursday. But these trades could go down at any time, right? Players could be we've seen them before. They're literally on the bench or in the game, and they'll get traded and removed from the lineup. So, obviously, if you're watching this, you're playing DFS tonight. Can't, especially right now. It's always true for NBA, but you got to be able to make changes and adjustments because I think we're going to see a lot of trades this year. It certainly seems like it based on kind of how early some of these early deals are going down.
Yeah, and we got a good comment in the chat. Hope I think you'll like this. You can keep Zion happy with the 20-piece nugget. So
you might need more than 20. 20 is that's a big T meal. The 20-piece nugget. Like Zion's got to be double what Big T takes down.
Zion needs that Chick-fil-A 30 or even bacon. Who knows? But
one of each thing on the menu for Zion wherever he goes.
Yeah, he's got to be close to $4.
He's the guy that says he wants, like, he's not like, I just want one number 8. Like he wants like 2 number 8s and then like a couple extra sides there. But
who is the dude after the game? Was it last week that was ordering McDonald's?
My boy Ann Edwards. Yeah. McDonald's. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was great. Love that.
So yeah, he was ordering it and he said, my bad, I got to order. And then he's sitting there doing it. And it's like, man, I love this city, man. He was so excited. So he was pumped for his McDonald's. That was pretty funny to see. We can dive into this slate and kind of talk about it. Hoop, give a quick overview because I think we see these all the time. The trade deadline comes up. There's going to be these elite values today that just kind of have to play. So we're going to cross off some games and be really quick on some, and then other games we're going to take some more time on. Kind of give your breakdown on that before we dive in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big slate, 10 games, but really it's not a 10-game slate because we have some spots where we have to load up, like the Trailblazers. Like you have to play multiple Trailblazers today. The Nets are without all their guys. The Pelicans are relatively thin. I mean, they don't have much on the bench. So, yes, it's a 10-game slate, but really when we start going through it, you're going to see we're going to be off a lot of games because there's spots you're just forced to load up. So 10-game slate, but not really.
Yep, agree. And guys, like and subscribe to the video. That helps out a ton. We have tons of Super Bowl content. I did a video with Hoop and DC, and we have a big schedule coming up. We'll be releasing a video and like a piece of content basically every day leading up. So Hoop, before we dive into the games, now's the time to sign up, right? The code, give the people the code, and then the schedule. I can rattle off the schedule, but tell the people other reasons to sign up. We have MMA this weekend, and we got so much stuff going on. This is the perfect time to sign up right now.
Yeah, we're kicked off that promo in honor of Super Bowl week. SB56 is the promo code. If you use that on a monthly package, you get 50% off your first payment, and it's the best deal we've ever ran. And it can include the bets side of the website. It can include SaberSim. So any monthly package, however you want to do it. If you want bets, if you want SaberSim, can add it all in there, and you'll get 56% off for this first month. It's a great deal, all-in price, like we talked about. I mean, it includes all the sports, not just some sports. When NASCAR starts, we're not charging you $400. Whatever PGA, UFC, we're not charging you extra. All sports under the same pricing umbrella. It's a great deal. And like you said, this, we're going to have some Super Bowl content every single day. Later on in the week, it turns to premium. You're going to have the Print Factory with JSU, Big T, Dunkel and ODB. They're going to be talking the betting angles, the props. And then on Friday, me, Holden, and Big T will be diving deep into the Showdown slate, talking our player pools, talking roster construction, game script stuff. So tons of stuff to come up for the Super Bowl. And obviously UFC 271 this week, and that's big. Daytona 500 next week, and massive prize pools for that. Got you covered on all the sports. SB56 is the code.
You had the first look today with me, Hoop, and Title. Then you got picking winners with me, Holden, and Keg tomorrow. Snyder will have his breakdown up on Wednesday. Thursday, you'll have the Print Factory at 10 o'clock. That will not be free. It'll be premium with JSU, Big T, Dunkel, ODB. Then the Rubio will have his Showdown playbook up by then. Friday, you'll have the Wood Show with Big T, Hoop, and Holden. I believe that'll be behind the paywall too. No free. So sign up now. If you want to get it, join now so you can check out all this stuff. You'll also get Tambo's Plan of Attack, the 3-max strategy from our guy, K Phallic. And then Saturday, you'll get the Off the Chalk show from AP, DC, Tambo, and JT Hayes. And the core plays from the entire crew. And if you have any other questions about the schedule, feel free to DM K Phallic. He will answer any question for you. And at K Phallic in the NFL chat, when you watch the show, and tell him, hey, this was my favorite piece of content this week. He loves to hear that. So be sure to hit him with the at in the NFL channel. He will absolutely love it. But let's dive in. Let's talk about this slate, because this is definitely going to be a fun one. I'm excited for it. We kick it off with the Suns and the Sixers. And DC, let's go to you first, because this is a fun game to watch. If you told me I could only watch one game tonight and I was just watching with no money on the line, just watching a basketball game, this could be it, because this could be a game against two really good basketball teams and could be a lot of fun to watch, a 1.5 spread. But DFS wise, I'm not really itching to play guys here. Besides maybe like a Joel Embiid, like one off at the top, I just think this is a game to fade, especially because it starts at 7. And then that Nets lineup is going to be really important because they don't have Harden. And I kind of want to get that lineup and just not be locked into stuff.
Yeah, unless something changes, in the 2 hours before this game begins, I don't see playing any guys from here. Joel Embiid would be the one guy, right? We're going to have tons of value that we talk about during this show. And so you are going to be able to spend up for sure on one. And if you want to, 2 complete studs on this slate. Listen, Embiid's been fantastic. They're going to need him out there against all the bigs that Phoenix plays. So I think you could see a minute ceiling game for Embiid here. He'll be, lower owned like he always is. I think rightfully so compared to Jokic. But, I mean, he beats Jokic, 30%, 40% of the time here. So if you want to make that pivot in a tournament, I have no problem with that. Yesterday I said, like, Jay Crowder I thought was an okay play on a 5-game slate. But today, as the first game on the slate, which, we'll probably get news we don't anticipate in the other 9 games, I really don't think you want to lock in too much from this game. That could change if James Harden potentially gets traded to Philadelphia, right? We don't know for sure who would move back in that deal. That could change a little bit from the Philadelphia side. But until we have that, this game, I can't really recommend anyone from this game too strongly.
Yeah, Hoop, I'll go over to you. Any interest in an Embiid as a spend up? Or are you just kind of like, hey, I'm going to fade this game, wait for that Nets lineup? And there's so many good games later on. So I think this is a good game to stay away from. How about you, Hoop?
Oh, it's one of those games that we kind of talked about that's better to watch than roster guys for DFS. I mean, I'm definitely excited to see Suns 76ers, but for DFS purposes, not so much. I mean, we have a ton of really good value plays. I mean, yes, the one guy I would consider here would be Embiid, maybe Devin Booker, but you don't have to lock yourself into that. There's so many other good spends on the slate. We have Luka, who's just been playing phenomenally well. We have Jokic. We have Giannis, LeBron, so you don't have to go here. To kind of just wait on the news. We're going to want to see what goes on in Portland, like who starts there. That's late. I mean, it's a 10 p.m. Eastern game. Who knows when we get the starters there? So I'm not going to, lock myself into anything. You buy yourself 30 extra minutes, and I think that's the move tonight.
Yep, I'm with you on that. Let's move on over to the next one. Let's talk about these Celtics and the Nets. And this is definitely going to be a game where we're going to want to roster some guys DFS-wise, but I need that starting lineup from Steve Nash. That is important. DC, do you agree? I mean, we could talk about some guys. Like we can talk about Patty Mills. I think him at the small forward position is nice at 5.8K, but also 5.8 is not dirt cheap. So like guys like Kessler Edwards at 3.4 feels a little more comfortable. James Johnson at 3.6 doesn't feel terrible. And Blake Griffin at 4.6, he could really soak up a lot of usage here. And Cam Thomas, if he's going to be a starter here, well, he is willing to chuck the ball up. I mean, he's like kind of like a James Harden light. He will shoot a ton of shots. So I'm curious to see what you're doing here with this game because there are good plays here, but the problem is we got Portland guys later on tonight that are going to be some really great plays and so many other spots you can go to. So what are you doing here with the Nets here, and are you doing any Celtics run back options, DC?
Yeah, Nets obviously missing their big three: Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, all sitting this game out. We've seen this a few times this year. Patty Mills, I mean, he's going to step into a really big role. I know, like the $5,800 price tag looks like a lot. He's got to do a lot for this team at this point. So I think Patty Mills certainly in play. Cam Thomas at 4,800. If you need a little discount there, you could play them both together too. I think because I'm a little bit concerned about Brooklyn's ability to compete against a fully healthy Boston team. And so I think they need a couple of their guys to play well, right? So maybe you pair Thomas and Mills. I think if Brooklyn keeps this game close, I think both those guys are going to have very strong games, play mid-30s, upper 30s in minutes, and have to carry a really, really big scoring load for this team because Brooklyn has enough bodies, right? They're not like necessarily short of players, but man, the rest of these guys are all just really low usage guys. I mean, guys like Bembry, Bruce Brown, Edwards, James Johnson, like they're just not scorers. They're not creators. And so that's going to have to be a lot of Cam Thomas and Patty Mills. So I do like both those guys quite a bit, depending on, kind of where your salary and position and all that falls. And then I think you can look at the big men too for the Nets, right? Missing Aldridge as well. I mean, he's the fourth guy on this team in terms of, between maybe him and Mills in terms of the usage and scoring. He's out too. So that's going to leave, and Claxton. So that's going to leave Griffin and Sharp, right? Daron Sharp, who we've seen some big games out of him. He's been a pretty good per-minute producer. So depending on who gets to start between Griffin and Sharp, I would probably lean that way. So yeah, kind of those three guys for me for Brooklyn: Mills, Thomas, and then one of Sharp or Griffin, depending on who gets to start. But on this slate, so much value on Portland, like we talked about. I'm not really messing with the wings, right? The Johnsons, the Bembrys of the world. Those guys really aren't in play for me too much here. It's going to be one or two of the big men, and then Mills, Thomas. Because they're priced up a little bit, I don't see them as must plays on this slate necessarily. But I think pretty strong plays. Again, a little bit worried about Brooklyn's ability to compete, so I don't mind pairing a couple of these Brooklyn Nets because I think they're going to need a couple of them to play well to get that, that fourth quarter run, to get that final rotation. So certainly a team to look at. It's going to depend on the starting lineup, which is hard to predict for the Nets right now, frankly, at least for me. But yeah, Mills, Thomas, and then Sharp, the three that I'm looking most closely at right now.
Hoop, I think you could also make an argument just like you could fade this game. I mean, there's really good values later on. So like, I think you could get away with it and like hope like the minutes get spread out enough. And like, I could see it happen. And it's not like Mills at 5'8" is just like 3K. It's not like Cam Thomas at 4'8" is not 3K. Like
Mills needs 35, 40 fantasy points, right? To be a good player.
Probably on this slate, with all the really elite value, like he's got to come out and put up a big game. Like if he gets you 26, 27, it's not going to be enough tonight.
Yeah. And the one thing that's really appealing about some of these guys, like I think Blake Griffin is more appealing at power forward rather than center. And then I think that Mills is more appealing at small forward because of that. But Hoop, what are you doing with this game? Because I think you can make arguments not to like load up on this game too much. I think you can mix and match some guys, but there's some really good value later on in that Portland game that we'll definitely talk about. But I think this is a game that you can't ignore completely.
Yeah, I mean, my initial lean is to be lower on this game. I mean, the Celtics, I just want to pull this up, but I mean, they've been playing some pretty solid. Yeah, they've won, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row, 7 out of their last 8 games. They're playing solid basketball right now. And they get this Nets team, no Kyrie, no Harden, no Durant. I mean, I'm struggling to see how the Nets keep this game close. So, if you're doing 150 lineups, you probably got to get some exposure to the Nets. But if you're only making, 1, 2, 3 lineups, like I don't think you have to play this Nets team tonight. Like, Patty Mills is 5'8". He's got to do something at 5'8". Cam Thomas is 4'8". At 4'8", you got to do something. He's going to have to put up 28, 29, 30 fantasy points. So if I were to go anywhere, I think it would be with the real cheap dudes like Kessler Edwards and James Johnson. But even to that point, I much prefer the Portland situation. Like these Portland guys are in a much better spot. 220 total. They're actually favored by 1, so basically a pick 'em there. for me, I just much prefer the Portland value over this Brooklyn value. I'm going to be underweight on this entire situation. Boston's playing great basketball right now. It's a dream matchup for them, playing solid defense. I just don't have a ton of interest. Yes, if you're building a lot of lineups, you're going to get exposure to these guys. But, I'm only doing a few lineups tonight. I'm going to maybe potentially fade this spot, to be honest. I just like those Portland guys so much better. And there's a lot of Portland guys you can play. So not super interested here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So I'm considering it more too, the fade on it. So we'll have to see. I definitely want the starting lineup, no doubt. I think that'll be very important and could give you a little bit of a tell on what's going to happen. Let's move on over to this Pacers and Hawks game, which this one starts at the same time. And we are waiting on some news in this game. The big news is Isaiah Jackson questionable, Malcolm Brogdon questionable, Terry Taylor questionable, which like all that could be really big news. Goga could easily start here and he could be a good play at 4.2K, but he is center eligible. DC, what are you doing with this Pacers news, and are you using any Hawks run back options? And I just noticed DC disappeared.
DC disappeared, man. Just like the cell phone, he's gone. I'll hop in. I mean, the Pacers obviously made that trade, and there's a lot of injury news around their team today. And it's hard to know what to do with the Pacers without the news. Like, if Goga's in and starts, he's 4.2K, like in play for sure. If Brogdon does play, I don't have much interest in him, but if he's out, then we'd start to look at guys like Duarte, maybe Dwayne Washington, Sykes. But then again, you're taking those guys and putting them up against the Portland value, which I'm just going to prefer the Portland value tonight by a wide margin. So these guys are fine for 150, but we're going to need the news on the Atlanta side. Probably just Trae Young for me. He's 9.8K, but man, I probably want Brogdon in to play Trae Young, because if Brogdon's out, I mean, you're looking at a super lopsided game here. They're already 12.5-point favorites. That's not very appealing for DFS. So probably just Trae Young, and then on the Pacer side, it depends what happens with Brogdon and some of these other guys.
Yeah, you can make arguments like John Collins could see upside at 6'9", but I just don't want to do it on this slate. I know the Pacers, you can target their front court, but I don't think I want to go there. Like Kevin Huerter at 4.3, it's probably not the best slate to do it. I understand he could get there. There's just such good values everywhere. So I don't love this game. I see DC might be back, or he's trying to make his way back. I don't know. So we'll have to see. We'll get his takes on it. I don't think there's much to talk about with this game. And we can shift on over to this next one and talk about the Clippers and the Grizzlies, which another game where I think we just cross it off, really. I mean, maybe Ja Morant at the top could be interesting. If you talk about playing a lot of values, then you can fill some studs out. So Ja could make some sense, but I don't want to mess with these Clippers. It feels like they're just playing two hockey rotations. You get line one and line two, Reggie Jackson, Coffey, Morris, Batum, and Zubac. And then line two is Powell, Kennard, Covington, Nan, and Ibaka. And it's that's not friendly for DFS. I think I'm out on that. You could make an argument if one of those guys starts at Covington or Powell, that could help them, but feels like the wrong slate. So this is a game that I'm fading. How about you?
Yep, I'm with you. I mean, I haven't played the Clippers in probably a couple months. It's worked out great. There hasn't been many times where, we've gotten screwed by fading the Clippers. They've turned into a team that's just not friendly for DFS at this point, and honestly probably won't be for the rest of the season. So good spot to avoid on a 10-game slate. On the Grizzlies, I mean, the only guy I'd consider would be Morant, and he's not high on my list in terms of the spends tonight. So just Morant. Maybe if I'm building a ton of lineups, I'm personally not building a ton of lineups tonight. If you're doing 150, I'd keep Morant in the pool, but 20 lineups, anything 20 lineups or below, I'd be fading this game fully.
Yep, definitely think this is a good one to fade. Before we kind of go into the next game, maybe we can give DC some time too. Let's talk about the Members Never Win segment, which, hey, we had a couple nice hits over the weekend. Yuri Thomas, I think his name's Sweet Boy in the Discord, 135K in NBA. Actually, no, that wasn't him. The Club Bands guy, that is Sweet Boy. He won the FanDuel seat. So congrats to him for hitting that FanDuel live final seat. And then our own Big T, 65K in NBA, hit that live final seat for DraftKings. So he'll be, I'm sure, at that. And we got DC back. DC, I know you were away just now. You were also away this past weekend without a phone. Are you surprised that Big T hit a live final seat while you were gone?
No. I was asking before the last show, do we have any big scores among the crew or members? And of course, Big T's big win came up, and it's like, I don't know if that one really counts. Do I have any others? It's every week for Big T. So yeah, lost my phone, and now my computer doesn't seem to be able to handle Zoom. So hopefully it holds up here. We'll see.
Well, here, this is what you missed, DC. Pacers and Hawks and Grizzlies and Clippers. So you tell me what you want to say.
I want to hear the Pacers takes, because that's a team that I'm a little confused on myself.
Okay, so we can talk about it a little bit, because I think this is value that you don't really need to go to on this slate. And because I think there's better ones later on, you can take some shots, but a lot of guys that be out. You need Jackson out. You need Terry Taylor out. That would help Goga a ton. Even if one of them's in, that could help them. And then Brogdon, like, I don't think he plays, but if he does not play, like, some of these guards could pop up. Like, if Kiefer Sykes starts at 3.9K, you definitely can make an argument for him.
Sure.
If a Dwayne Washington started at 4.1, you could definitely make an argument for him here in the spot. And even Duarte has the upside, but he's very points dependent. And on this slate, I don't know if I want to stomach that. Like, if he gets you 20 fantasy points at 5.5 because he doesn't hit his shots, that could be very concerning. So I think these guys they're in play, but like max of one on a team, I think, for me, if I play them, and I'm really not trying to like load up on them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the Sykes Washington thing. I mean, the minutes, they're kind of going to go who's ever playing better, right? That's not. I don't think either one's like guaranteed to get them unless we get more guys rolled out. You've got Lance Stevenson lurking there, and even Duarte. I mean, I think I prefer both Mills and Cam Thomas to Duarte, right, in that kind of that shooting guard spot myself. So I'm with you. Unless we get more guys out for Indiana, it feels a little bit trappy to me. Where today when you're going to the value, you want to feel pretty damn secure about the minutes, at least, right? At least that much. Indiana guys right now, at least, I'm a little iffy on where the minutes are going to go.
Yeah, and DC, you missed the Torrey Craig game while you were gone on February 2nd. For 4.2K, he dropped 36. So
I wouldn't have had him. So I'm glad I was gone.
Don't chase it. Don't be like, the Torrey Craig 40 burger's coming. Yeah. It's probably not. So that'll maybe be in a couple months, and we won't be on him, but that's okay. I am out on Torrey Craig and this game. Let's go on over to the next one. Let's talk about the Rockets and the Pelicans, where Pelicans gave away some guys. I mean, the starting lineup is still pretty solid and secure. The starters you should see tonight, likely Devontae Graham, Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, Jackson Hayes, and Valanciunas. And then it gets thinner. You got Jose Alvarado. He is 3.7K. Garrett Temple, Gary Clark, Trey Murphy, Najee Marshall. They don't have guys besides that 5. So you could see a lot of condensed minutes on these guys. So the question is, do you want to pay 9.2K for Brandon Ingram? I know he's been crushing, but 9.2 is a hefty tag. He's been great the last couple of games, but I just don't think I can do it. And on the Rocket side, it doesn't feel like a great spot to go to. And there have been some trade rumors on Jayshawn Tate. And I mean, the Rockets, they're a team that you wouldn't be surprised if they just traded someone. So I don't want to mess with this team too much. I think they're just worth staying away from. Hoop, let's go to you first, because I want to get your take on Brandon Ingram at 9.2K, because it's a hefty tag. And I know you've rostered him a lot in the past. I have too. And we've seen him disappoint. Do you think he is worth rostering at this crazy 9.2K price tag in this spot?
I do. I mean, I love the Pelican side tonight. I mean, look at their bench. Like you said, they have nobody coming off the bench. And these guys, the starters, are going to play a ton of minutes. Then you get a dream matchup here against the Rockets. And it just seems like everything is trending up for these starters. Brandon Ingram, since coming back from injury, 32 minutes, 38, 36, 40, 53, 63 fantasy points. Kind of streaky guy, and he's playing well right now, so I'm fine paying the 9.2 for Ingram. I think Valanciunas is a great play at 8.3. Jackson Hayes getting a lot of minutes at 5.5. I really, really like those three guys in all formats, and then you can throw Herb Jones in there too. I think he's fine. Devontae Graham's the one I don't like a ton. Just hasn't really been playing well. He's getting a lot of minutes, but he's been under 20 fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. So I'm just off of him, but I think Ingram, Hayes, Valanciunas, all really good plays. Eric Gordon's out and Daniel Tice out for the Rockets. I mean, maybe these guys are fringe plays. I just don't want to mess with the Rockets. I haven't been playing them. The Sengun guy, I mean, maybe if you're making 150 teams, put him in the player pool. Same for like Christian Wood. If I'm only making a few teams, I'm not going to get to the Rockets, but I'm pretty high on the Pelicans. Yeah, I mean, 9.2, not comfortable for Ingram, but in this spot, I think he's definitely a 9-2 player.
Yeah, so this is great. We have DC here who's been away for a week. And if I told DC, he just has no phone and he comes back and I say, DC, you're going to roster 9.2K Brandon Ingram. He's going to be popular and people are liking him. What would your answer be? Because I know the situation matters, but this is Brandon Ingram at 9.2K and it feels expensive, DC.
It does a little bit, but
and I think he's gone. I think maybe Brandon Ingram just destroyed him.
Not only did that Mexico trip claim his phone, but it claimed his internet connection as well.
Yeah, and I do want to say, like, I'll mention this. Like, I like Brandon Ingram today. I just think it's just a really high tag that you're not used to. You have a lot of value though today, where you're easily able to get those guys, and it seems like he's going to be a little more popular. So definitely.
Well, the other thing is, DK did a good job. But, they got the top guys are now 12K and above. So, yes, Ingram at 9.2 seems expensive, but he's still $3,000 cheaper than that top tier guy. So you're getting a price discount coming down to a guy like Ingram. Now, do I think Ingram's the same as Jokic and Luka and Embiid? Hell no. But that $3,000 can go a long way. So I'm pretty high on Ingram tonight.
It definitely can go a long way. You can roster a 4K guy, right? Like some guy like at 4K flat, or you can roster Anthony Simons. Like that 3K can go a massive way. So I do want to call that out. I think great point that you brought up there too. And I think one thing that's helped Brandon Ingram a little bit, this like double big man Jackson Hayes and Valanciunas combo, I think it's kind of helped Ingram's usage a little bit more because instead of Valanciunas grabbing the board and going back up with it, you're probably seeing him like kick it out a little bit more and resetting some stuff because the paint's just a little too clogged. So I think that plays into it as well. He's also guard and forward eligible, but I think Ingram is definitely a really interesting talking point for sure on this slate. I kind of agree with what you're saying with these Rockets. Like, why are we going there today? Like Sengun at 4-5, 3-4, it made more sense on these other slates. I'll pass on him. We don't got DC here back. He'll come back. We'll maybe get his Brandon Ingram take, and then we'll kind of get some takes on some other games. But this is one Hoop. Good thing we don't have DC because we need your Detroit Pistons takes, of course. We got the Mavericks as well. And I don't know if you know this, it's a Reggie Bullock revenge game. So he has been actually balling. He's 5.6K, a little too expensive. The only two guys I'm really interested in this game, Hoop, even if Cade Cunningham's out, I don't want to play any Pistons. Two guys, Luka as a spend up at 12.2K and Jalen Brunson at 6'9". He has my interest. I prefer some other guys in that range, but if I fell into Jalen Brunson in this spot, Pistons give up a ton of fantasy points. I don't think it's the worst idea. I think he has the upside to get 40, even 50 fantasy points if he's getting hot. So what are you doing here with the Mavs and Pistons? Because this is a game that I don't think you want to have a ton of. I'm curious to hear what you got on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, it's Luka and, Brunson as the last guy in, not a building block for Brunson. Same as Luka. Like, you can clearly get up to the studs tonight. We have so much cheap value. I actually think it's pretty close between him and Jokic if I'm going to spend. Like, Luka's playing some solid basketball. I mean, 70 fantasy points in 3 straight games, then hit a 54 fantasy point game in 27 minutes. He's in foul trouble the entire game. He'll have his way here against the Pistons, so I think he's a strong play. And then the last guy I'll throw in, Dwight Powell, been playing a lot of minutes, 34 minutes, 36 minutes, 26, 28 fantasy points. I think he's a fine value option as well.
Yeah, this is a tough game to roster, but there's definitely guys you can get in here and mix and match throughout your lineups. And I kind of agree with like that Luka versus Jokic take. Like, I think it's pretty close for sure. And that is the next game, so we can talk about that. And this is not a game to completely ignore too. I think it's got some similar vibes to the Nets spot where like the Knicks are shorthanded. And we know Thibodeau, he plays his guys. Like if Taj Gibson starts at 3K and he's power forward and center eligible, I could see myself considering it. It's not crazy. And then RJ Barrett on FanDuel, I think he's an interesting play. Kemba Walker, if you tell me the minutes are safe, I just don't know if they are. They seem like they could be, but if they are safe and he's going to get the 30 plus, at 4-1, he could easily go off for a big game. And then Jokic on the flip side, like he is just a guy that plug and play throughout your lineups. Just the question is, do you want to put him in at the center spot? Are there other center guys you'd rather go to? So Hoop, how are you handling this game? Because I think I like some spots, but I also think I can make some adjustments. If for some reason I'm going to be on a lot of Portland guys, but if I get some type of news that can get me onto some of these Knicks, I could see myself getting maybe a piece or two here or there. What do you think? You're on mute.
It's not the most appealing, spot here for the Knicks on a back-to-back where their guys played a ton of minutes last night in Utah. So you go from Utah to Denver, to the harder, places to play in the NBA. I don't have a ton of interest. Like Barrett and Randall would be the guys, probably more on FanDuel. Barrett's still pretty cheap, and he just plays so many damn minutes. So maybe a little Barrett, maybe a little Randall. Taj is somewhat interesting. But again, you're putting these value plays up against the Portland situation where, their 3K and 4K guys are like their primary offensive weapons tonight. So if I'm doing 150, if you're playing 150, I think, if Todd starts, put him in there. And then on the Denver side, Jokic, is one of the top raw points guy. And like I said, tonight, I think it's close between Luka and Jokic. I almost prefer Luka. The way he's playing is just, he gets on these streaks where he's just unconscious, and it's kind of where he's at right now. So I think I might prefer Luka over Jokic for like the first time all season. But you don't have to go all the way up there. I mean, these are expensive price tags, 12.6. It's a tough price tag. So you're looking at, Luka or let's say Jokic and a full punt, which we do have a lot of tonight, or like Valanciunas and Nurkic. That's basically what you're looking at. I'd probably lean the 2 8K guys. So I don't know. Not going to have a ton of exposure here.
Yeah, and the Taj Gibson thing, I saw some people laughing in the chat, and it's like, it's just Thibodeau. If the guys start and like, what about Kemba? I know you're saying you don't want him, but like if he started and he didn't play last night, like at 4-1, he does have a ceiling where like, I think in tournaments you would take the shot. Like, do you need the starting lineup to make that decision? Or is it more just like, okay, keep backloading for these like Blazers, and like, what if Fox sits, Davion Mitchell's 5-4? There just are a lot of guys in this late game that you can go to instead. What do you think? Is it just too crazy?
You need him to start because you just don't know. I mean, if he doesn't start, there's a chance like he doesn't play. So, I mean, you definitely need him to start. This game is at 9 Eastern. We're probably backloading anyway. You're going to have a lot of flexibility late. Here's a good example. We always talk about this. Like, let's say something doesn't go your way in like the earlier games and you're loaded up on Portland, and then Kemba Walker is announced a starter. Make that pivot to a lower Kemba over those Portland guys and maybe try to catch up. So I think, we will have flexibility. 4.1K is a good price tag. If he's out there playing 30 minutes, he can easily pay that off. So, just keep that in the back of your mind.
Yeah, and it's funny. I was looking at the game logs. I found one game, and of course, the thing is the matchup isn't great. Like Jokic is not a guy to go up against. But he had 27 fantasy points, and he only took 2 shots. And in 27 minutes, but it was against the Pistons. And that's what happens when you play the Pistons. They're just terrible. So matchups matter too. And man, that Portland Magic game is going to be definitely a fun one to talk about. So obviously we're still waiting on DC. I don't know if we'll get back in time, but guys, this is what we got to do. We got 3 games left. We're going to talk about Portland for probably a while here. Hoop, we got 470 watching, 158 likes. What's the number we got to get to? I'm feeling either 250. I wouldn't mind pushing it to 275, but we only got 468 watching. I feel like sometimes people don't love the NBA on these days. It's a little crazy, but what do you want to do here? How many likes are we looking at?
Let's go. Let's see. There's 2 right now. I see 466. So let's get to 266. 266.
266 it is. That's the plan. Hit that like, subscribe to the channel, check out all of the Run Pure Sports content that we have going on this week. So be sure to check that out. Let's talk about this next game though. Magic and the Blazers, which I was on the bet show, Hoop, and I bet the Magic money line. They're my best bet. I think the Magic win this game. And I think this Blazers team, they're very shorthanded. If you look at their lineup today, it's going to be Simons, McLemore, Ellaby, Winslow, Nurkic, Watford, Dennis Smith Jr., Greg Brown, and Blevins. Like, this team is not good. And I think Simons is a good play. Nurkic is fine, but he is 8.5K and he's center eligible. And I also think you're adding in a couple of usage guys to the lineup, like Justice Winslow at 3K. He's actually more of a higher usage guy than like a Robert Covington or a Tony Snell. Also, Ben McLemore, he is willing to chuck. He is willing to throw that ball up, where I think that could cut into Nurkic a little bit and maybe Simons, but like, what are you doing here with these guys? I think all of these cheap guys are really good plays, like Ellaby, Winslow, McLemore, 3 of the best values. And then Dennis Smith Jr. running that bench unit, where if And I don't think the game for sure could blow out, but like, you never know what can happen with these games. They're playing the Magic, and also McLemore could get benched, or Ellaby could get benched, where Dennis Smith Jr. closes out in a close game and gets that really good usage by himself and that closeout rotation. So there's a lot of ways I think it can go right for these Blazers. So how many Blazers are too many Blazers, and how do you rank these guys?
Yeah, I mean it's a load up spot. I mean, the crazy part is they're still basically favored in this game, like you kind of touched on. So it's a really good spot. I agree with your assessment. Nurkic is the one that I'm actually least interested in out of everyone here. Like, I love everyone else. Nurkic is the one that I don't have a ton of interest in. I think Simons is a phenomenal play. I mean, he's shown us massive upside, 7K. Love him. After him, my next is probably Winslow, McLemore, Ellaby, Dennis Smith Jr. Can definitely look at these other guys too, like Greg Brown, and then this Watford dude. Like, you can play 7 different Trailblazers now in one lineup, probably 4. I mean, in the higher stake stuff, I think you can get away with playing 5, but you're going to want some Trailblazers, especially if this game's close. If this ends up being a close game that approaches that 220 total, you're going to probably need 3 Trailblazers in your lineups. Like, the optimal team will probably have 3 Trailblazers at least. So you want to load up here. Now, where it gets interesting is on the Orlando side, because these guys are all going to come in really low owned. And we're looking at a situation here where we know we're playing a lot of Trailblazers. In order to keep this game competitive, the Magic guys are going to have to do something too, but they're going to be way, way lower owned. Cole Anthony, Wagner, Wendell Carter. I like all 3 of those guys quite a bit. You're going to get them at really low ownership. But, this game's all about the Portland side. The slate's all about the Portland side. Starters probably don't matter all that much, to be honest. Like, all these guys are going to have to play. Like, Dennis Smith will come off the bench, but he's going to run that unit. When he comes in the game, he's probably staying in for the rest of the half. So not really worried about the starters here. I'm going to have heavy exposure to all these guys. It's a spot that, you definitely want to load up on here.
Here's another question for you. Is Ben McLemore more valuable possibly tonight because he's got that guard and forward eligibility versus a Dennis Smith Jr.? Because, I think that does matter a bit when you're kind of grading these guys out. Like, in Ellaby, he's got that guard and forward eligibility, which that could matter too. So, and also if you're backloading your lineups up, Justice Winslow's only power forward eligible, where you can only put him at power forward and forward. You can't put him at small forward as well. Sure, you can put him at utility, but what if you have 2 centers that you want? Where you need to plan for this a little bit. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like there's going to be a night where Hoop can't hit the sheets too early, or if he does, he's going to have to wake up to that screenshot. I think it might be one of those nights for you.
Yeah. The nice thing is that McLemore and Ellaby have the guard and forward eligibility. So you're going to have flexibility, regardless, when this lineup's released, you're going to have that flexibility. Like I said, I'm trying to backload a little bit. I'm going to be very light on those early games. Feel good about it. I want to see who starts. But like I said, it doesn't matter who starts. I'm playing all these guys regardless. Like, Dennis Smith is almost certainly going to be coming off the bench. He's just as good of a play as McLemore or Ellaby, who are likely to start. But yeah, I mean, be conscious of where you put these guys, because if you do need to make some swaps, it certainly could matter.
Yeah. And are you playing any Magic as the runbacks? Because Portland's defense was bad. What is it going to be now? I mean, it's going to be even worse, where some Magic guys can get there. I don't know if I necessarily want to play the guessing game with them, but there are some interesting tags, like Jalen Soski at there at 6K, Franz Wagner at 5.5, Cole Anthony at 7K. But it is one of those slates, you talked about it. We have a lot of good value plays. And on top of having good values, then you might need some raw points, where if one of these guys only gets you 20 fantasy points or 24 at 6K, that's not going to cut it. And that could really bury your lineup too.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making 150 teams, I'd definitely get exposure to the Magic guys. If you're making, I keep using this analogy, but it really holds true tonight. If you're only making, 2, 3, 4 teams, I don't think you need to play Magic guys. Like I said, I'm only doing a couple teams tonight, and then, I probably won't have a ton of Magic, maybe Cole Anthony, but outside of that, for 3 max and stuff, I won't have a ton of Magics. If you're making 150, though, I would be playing some of these guys.
Yep, agree with you there. Still no DC. The internet might be shot. We'll have to see. If you want to play some bets, place your bets in the chat on if DC comes back in time. But we only got a couple games left. We got 2 left, and the likes are at 212. You need 266. And I mean, we don't have DC to also help stall. We only got two guys giving takes where this show could end pretty quick. So let's get those likes up. Let's move on over and talk about the next game. That way we can give out those plays of the day. Bucks and Lakers, Hoop. I don't hate some of these studs, but it doesn't feel like the right slate. It feels like a better cross-off game for me. How about you? Because I don't really see myself mixing and matching any of these guys. Maybe it's like a Giannis one-off or a LeBron one-off at 10-5, but I don't see myself really going here on this slate.
The one guy I do like in this game is LeBron. I mean, 10-5 is a good price tag for him. And came back from injury and played 40 minutes. So like you don't have any concern there with the minutes. He kind of took over the ball handling. I mean, he looked really good. I mean, 29, 13, and 10. This is a game that the Lakers will want to win. So I think you get that top amount of minutes, probably close to 40 in a close game here. It's only 3.5 point spread. Really like LeBron here, just because of that price discount. Giannis, I'd probably find a way just to get up to Luka or Jokic. So yeah, just LeBron here because of the price tag and what we saw in his return a couple games or last game.
Yeah, at 10-5, I like him a little more than Giannis, but if I happen to have the raw points, I can get behind Giannis at the game. If the game stays close, he could have a big game. But man, not a spot I'm just like loading up on these studs. Feels like more, okay, if I fall on them and I backload too much and, I need to go to one of these studs, I'm perfectly fine with it.
Not building block type plays. I mean, these are guys that if they round out your lineup, you're not going to juggle a ton of stuff around to get off of them.
Yep, with you on that. Let's go on over to the last game. And we got the Timberwolves and the Kings. And we already talked about the Kings. And Hoop, I talked with Spread before. He is in shambles absolutely about the Kings.
Poor guy.
He's
I know the feeling though. That's the thing. I know the feeling being a Detroit guy. I mean, just got to separate. You got to separate yourself, Spread. If you're watching, I mean, just let the ship sail. Just be done with it.
He said he would console you about it because he thought that was the case. And then he said it's the worst franchise in sports. And I said, I'm gonna raise you the Lions. Like the Lions.
Yeah. Hey, I'm on with Spread tomorrow afternoon. I'll talk some sense into him a little bit because if anyone knows how to handle home team shitty organizations, it's your boy Hoop. So I'll talk with Spread tomorrow.
All right, we'll talk him in. Talk to him a little bit. He'll need it. But we have news in this game. Bagley, I believe, is still questionable, and then Fox, he is questionable. That's a pretty big piece of news on Fox because, I mean, I'm not jumping to roster Fox here, but there would be a lot of usage to go around and like a lot of unknown where I think people would be uncomfortable playing him, and also he would not have a lot of ownership. And if you backloaded it enough, it's not the worst idea to go to him at 8.1K. Davion Mitchell at 5.4. If Fox sits, I don't think that Davion Mitchell is necessarily this like really great ball handler, but I think he's a better secondary guard, but he's going to have all this usage that just goes his way. And then there's usage to go around for Harrison Barnes. My only issue is I feel like Halliburton was doing a great job of setting stuff up for Harrison Barnes, and that's a concern. If Fox misses and Bagley plays, well, 5K Marvin Bagley could have a massive ceiling where I wouldn't ignore him. And like Rashawn Holmes, if both those guys are out, Rashawn Holmes could easily have a big game. This Timberwolves defense has not been that great. So, Hoop, talk about the Kings, and then there's so many questionable guys on the Timberwolves. I don't even know how to break it down. I think if you have them to backload and enough guys are out, maybe you go to some of these guys, but this is one of those situations where there's just such good value on this slate. I'm not messing with the Timberwolves. That's something we can update in Discord chat and figure out later on.
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be much interest for me in the Timberwolves regardless of who's in and out. Obviously, it's a good spot against the shitty Kings team, but we already have our spots for value. We have our mid-tier guys. We have our spends. Like, I don't need to be here at all, so probably not going to be on the Timberwolves regardless of the news. On the Kings side, I really like Davion Mitchell. I think, like, either way, I mean, I'm assuming part of the reason they were willing to part ways with Halliburton is because of what they've been able to see out of Davion Mitchell, 5.4K. I think he's a fine play as is. If Fox is ruled out, I think he turns into an elite option tonight. So, you look at their roster, they just don't have – I mean, they don't have any guards. I mean, you look at it. I mean, they have a bunch of bigs. They have a bunch of power forwards. Like, they don't have guards. Like, am I missing something? Because it looks like Mitchell's just going to have to play just about as many minutes as he can handle. Like, am I missing some of these guards? Or, I mean, they just don't have guards on their roster.
They have, I mean, Ramsey, Jameis Ramsey. I mean, they have Woodard, and if you are like behind, right? Like you could go to a Ramsey if he happens to start, because like who's gonna start there as like the second guard? You can't put Mo Harkless at the 2, like. So there is some opportunity here that could rise that I just not completely ignoring it for sure. And Davion Mitchell could absolutely crush at 5'4". Like Davion Mitchell at 5'4", or like Cam Thomas at 4'8". I know it's not the same tag, but man, like it feels like just Davion Mitchell's a way easier play than that.
Yeah, Mitchell all day. I mean, I really like Mitchell. I mean, now that I look at this and look at their, I guess, new roster, I think Mitchell's a really strong play, as is. If Fox is ruled out, he might be one of the better values on the slate. I really like Davion Mitchell tonight. But outside of that, I'm not messing with these other Kings guys. I mean, they still have a lot of, centers and power forwards, and it's just a crappy team. But Mitchell's a guy I do like here.
Yeah. So Hoop, we're at 245 likes. So this is what we're going to do. We got 525 watching. More people have joined, so we'll give them the last second chance. We're going to explain to Holden that DC, where is he? He's asking. Holden say, where is he? Well, he has disappeared because he lost his phone in Mexico, or before he got on the plane, and now his internet's crapping out. I think he's trying his best to fix it, and he's going to uninstall Zoom, Simon said. So hopefully for the next show, he'll be good to go there. Obviously, we need to get to 266 likes to get those plays of the day. If not, I'm going to pull the plug, and I'm going to pull the plug, and it could be close where I pull it and I'm still on air talking and you guys are all upset. So get them in now. Hoop, I got one more thing to mention before we get on out of here or give out the plays. Holden said Washington Commanders are the most messed up franchise in sports on and off the field. They're a total debacle. Do you agree or disagree on that one?
Has he ever heard of a team called the Detroit Lions, who just sucks every year and rebuilds every year? I mean, the Lions in the NFL have to be the most embarrassing franchise, like, for sure. But I mean, yeah, what the Commanders are doing, obviously not far behind, but right now, I mean, the Lions are by far the worst. Yeah, they're asking rich parents play. Like, okay, 266. There you go. The chat responds. They respond.
Oh, but he didn't say something. I was ready to pull. the plug and just be done. But
they got lucky.
They got it home. So 274.
I feel bad because they didn't get DC's takes. They only got half of DC's takes today. So I would feel bad pulling the plays today. I'm glad they got there. It's going to be a good slate for us.
Yep. Maybe DC can post his in the Discord chat. He is not here right now, but we can give out our plays of the day. Hoop, you go first. It's a slate. Like, you want to definitely play some good plays. What are you doing here though? Who's your play of the day here on the slate?
Yeah, rich parents play of the day. I mean, obviously we have all these Portland guys we really like. We have some other spots we really like. I mean, the chat kind of guessed it, but I just kind of talked myself into it. I think during that last game, it's Davion Mitchell. Like, I just don't see how he doesn't play just a ton of minutes tonight. Probably 40 minutes in a close game. He could potentially play more. They just don't have guards. And if Fox is ruled out, it's like, he's going to have to do everything from a ball handling standpoint. So rich parents play the day. I mean, it's not a guy that I liked him coming into the show, but now I love him. It's Davion Mitchell for sure.
Yeah, that's who I was going to give. So you have you've stumped me a little bit. I thought he was.
You're going Mitchell?
Yeah, I was gonna, but you gave him. I'm trying to like. This is one of those slates where it's tough to balance. Like, you want to get a little bit off the board, but you can't get too off the board, right? You kind of have to be smart about it. So I'm going to go with a Portland value. I'm not going to go with like a Justice Winslow. Like, I know he's one of the guys that's popping. I'm seeing currently lower ownership on this guy. Maybe it ends up being wrong. If I give too chalky of a guy, my bad. But I'm going with Ben McLemore. I like that he has that small forward eligibility. I like when I can roster 3K guys that just are willing to chuck the ball up. Like we talked about, we like Cam Thomas, but not at 4.8. We would prefer him at that 3K tag or even the low 4s, especially on this kind of slate. I can basically get a different version of Cam Thomas and Ben McLemore that'll chuck the ball up a ton. So I'll go with Ben McLemore at that 3.5K price tag as my play of the day. Hoop, final thoughts before we kind of get on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like a don't get cute kind of slate. Like, we know who the good values are. Just play those guys. The Portland guys are in a great spot. Have a ton of different spends you can play. That's where you can get different with the spends. But in terms of the value, for me, it's just, you just don't get cute. And, the one thing I think that you and I agree on, like, people are going to play the Nets today. I think there is I think that the Celtics might just absolutely beat their ass, and not many of these Nets guys end up paying off their price tag. So going to be low on the Nets, and obviously super high on the Trailblazers.
Yeah, I mean, people all the time talk about how like, hey, I want to play these values, but like, look who they're going against. Like the Celtics defense has been legit. So like versus some of these other values, I kind of am getting more on board with you on that. Like if I play them, I'm likely going to do maybe one net. Like I'm not going to go overboard. I think that's kind of where I'm at on that one, but that's going to wrap it up for us. We got coming up next, the final countdown, JSU. We got Big T. Glock will be on the Up the Lock show as well with Holden. They'll be breaking it all down for you guys and giving you the winners. So be sure to check out the cash chart. Be sure to check out the core plays, but that'll wrap it up for us. For me, Mangone and Hoop and DC and his terrible internet. We will see you guys later.